Bullying and meanness, unkindness at break times, usually in schools, can have a profound impact on a youngster's life, particularly if they are trying to cope with everything that's going on from that low state of mind, from that feeling helpless. And that's a place that as human beings we do go to when we can't sort things out. So what are some of the practical things that can support a bully? Well, for a start off, deep listening without anything on your mind, really hearing that story, because behind the words you'll hear where that child is really living in the moment. You'll hear something beneath the words that will point to a direction of their truth. For example, I had a 10-11-year-old recently who was absolutely terrified to come to school, and that child would not tell anybody what was the matter. Parents, head teacher, class teacher, they wouldn't share it. And so they asked me to spend some time with the child. And as the child entered the room, I could tell that she was very quiet. And so I reflected that back to her and asked her if it was okay if we just sat together. And after a period of time, I noticed that she relaxed a little bit, her shoulders came down. And I asked her what she really loved to do, and she said drawing. And I said, is it okay if we draw together? And as she was drawing, I said to her, tell me what you like in school. And so she began to tell me, and then she said, but there are parts I don't like. And so I just nodded and listened. And we talked about the difference between the feelings, the different thoughts that you have when you come into school throughout the day. So you might come in feeling okay, and that's quite a neutral space. And somebody may say something kind, and so you feel better. And she smiled, and I said, feeling better is not something that happens outside of you. And she looked at me wide-eyed. I said, actually, you can feel good, bad, sad, mad, any one of those emotions. You can feel that within a minute. You can feel the whole range within a minute, and there might not be anybody else in the room. And she nodded. And I said, that's because we create our own thinking in the moment. And I drew a little stick figure. And I drew a little bit of thinking above the stick figure. And I said, thought just passes through all the time. I said, and sometimes we hold on to it, or we build it up, and we have this huge piece of thought above us. But this part doesn't change. It stays constant, it's the same. The true person who we are is always there underneath. And I said to her, would you like to share what's worrying you? And she said, no. And I said, that's okay, because that's all the made up stuff up here. She asked me to tell her more about feelings and emotions, and so we talked about it through a story, The Princess and the Pea, which she laughed about because it's not a year 6 story, it's not a story for an 11-year-old, although I still love it. And we said, let's imagine if all the thoughts are mattresses. So you have one thought, you have the original thought, which is the pea at the bottom, and then you have more thinking around it, so you put the mattress on top, and by the time you've finished, you've got a whole tower of thinking. And the tiny little original thought that could have been sorted out is lost. And she said to me, I'd like to go back to class now. Later, she did tell her parents what was behind her not wanting to come to school. And it was some unkind words that some children were saying to her that she happened to believe. And that's just one illustration of how to get really present with a child that's upset. And to just see what outcomes happen when two people connect. Now, on a practical side, on a really practical side, it's about understanding about thought, feeling, actions, and that sometimes we can say things or do things that appear to hurt somebody else. But if the child that is the bully, or the child that has received the meanness, the repetitive intention to hurt somebody, if they've been on the receiving, either one of those children, if they understand in the moment that if another person is being mean and horrible, that's where they are. They've got a low state of mind. They've got mean and horrible thinking. It's nothing to do with you whatsoever. Then the very thought of that means that you can walk away, you can go and get help, you're in your truth, you know it's nothing to do with you, and that person cannot have any power over you. And if you're the person that's being mean and unkind, and you're in that mean and unkind thinking, then you need help too. There must be a reason why you're in that place. And so while there are practical things that you need to do about bullying, keeping children safe, having rules that you follow, understanding respect and love for one another. I don't mean romantic love, I mean that sort of neutral understanding that we're all in this together. We're all trying our very best. And that when things go wrong, as Dr. Bill Pettit says, it's psychological innocence. And as Sid Banks says, your thoughts and feelings are a mirror of your soul. So what we do as coaches or supporters of children who are being bullied or are the bullies is to point them back towards that true self, that place of hope, that place of being okay in the moment. And there's so much more we can teach our children and our youth, so much more.